In our G equals E paper, we tried to highlight what we think is an underappreciated fact about genome-wide association studies. That not only do they tell us about underlying biology, but they can also tell us about modifiable or environmental causes of disease. So the best illustration of this, I think, is that when you run a genome-wide association study of lung cancer, for example, you identify a signal on chromosome 15, and that signal seems to be driving not lung cancer directly, but our risk of smoking heavily if we're a smoker. In other words, what that genetic influence is acting on more proximally is whether or not we smoke, and because smoking is causally linked to lung cancer, when we run a genome-wide association study of lung cancer, we see that signal for a modifiable risk factor for that disease. And I think that insight's important because it gives us a perspective on genome-wide association studies that we might otherwise miss. So to illustrate that, a recent study of schizophrenia also indicated a signal on chromosome 15, the same signal that seems to be driving smoking behaviour. Now we know that smoking and schizophrenia are highly related, and the assumption has always been, for the most part, that that relationship is due to people with schizophrenia smoking to self-medicate their symptoms or the side effects of their medication. But one possibility that this different perspective gives us is that smoking may be, in fact, a causal risk factor for schizophrenia. And there have been some other studies since, a meta-analysis out of King's College London and a Mendelian randomization study out of Copenhagen that have added further support to this possibility, and another analysis from some Swedish data by Ken Kendler and colleagues, all pointing to the possibility that smoking may be a causal risk factor for schizophrenia. And so this perspective on how we interpret genome-wide association studies might give us insights not just into the underlying biology, but into other risk factors that we might be able to act on much more rapidly.